Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is to be the final session of our series of RICS e-leadership forums for the year 2020. A year which has been an unprecedented change and challenge to what we have seen, not just in our personal life, but professional lives as well. A year that has dramatically changed the way we live, work, and possibly enjoy ourselves also. To the extent that the year 2020 will be cited as a year from where on the world we knew would never be the same. For most of us, the better part of the last 9 months has seen us working from home. In the interest of health and safety, because of the global pandemic, work from home became the new normal. But given the way business functions and how human beings are social animals, is this model sustainable in the long run? Connect and contact with other human beings is just part and parcel of our psyche. And in all honesty, our expectations and needs evolve over time and circumstances. With organizations having once again resumed operations from their facilities, what is it that the employees expect from their workplace? In addition to health and safety, which are of course paramount priorities in the given scenario, how much emphasis is being extended to amenities provided by and at the workplace? What is it that the employees are looking at for their experience at the workplace to be wholesome and fulfilling? On the flip side, what are developers and facility managers having to do to make the workplace secure? How are costs being optimized? What are occupiers' expectations? And how are they playing the balancing act, being business functionality, sustainability, and employee requirements? There are just so many things to consider when you have to factor in the well being of the people who we expect will keep our businesses up and running. Today, we, along with our presenting partner, Intellion Offices by Tata Realty, and knowledge partner JLL India, have put together a great lineup of speakers and panelists who are going to evaluate and deliberate on what the future holds for our workplace. So at this juncture, I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Dutt FRICS, MD and CEO Tata Realty and Tata Housing, and Chairman RICS South Asia Board to deliver his keynote address. Having a career span of over 2.5 decades in the sector, Sanjay is no stranger to the twists and turns of the real estate sector in India. He has practically seen the property segment blossom and flourish into what it is today, and contributed a lot to it in terms of what it is. Look forward to hearing from you, of hearing your views, Sanjay. I am sure the panel and the rest of the people would be very keen to hear about the success stories of Intellion Offices. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Nimish, and my compliments to RICS and you for putting together an outstanding program of great speakers. And I'm very fortunate to share this dais with Sandeep and Mr. Hariprasad, who have known him for many years, and I think they will bring a lot that would be very insightful. I'll very quickly take you through a short presentation that I have put together. As you said, Nimish, environment, health, and safety is a subject that the corporate real estate world started to experience back in 95, 96, when the global corporations started to come to India. And at that point of time, I remember the delta between National Building Code and the global fire and safety and environment standards was substantial. And it was with the knowledge and expertise and expectations of the global corporation that we saw a transition take place and things got started. And as you very rightly said, in last 9 months, what the world has witnessed has taken this to a altogether a different level. And I think every organization has abundantly demonstrated that how important the wellness and safety of the workforce is, and how going forward a new industry benchmark would be established. And it's a kind of an evolving situation. And I think as various vendors, tech experts, corporations will start implementing from their point of view what is best that enhances security and safety levels and well-being of the employees, and therefore then contributes to the productivity, that you will see over next 2 to 5 years a significant shift in our thought process and the new normal. Just before I commence on what Tata Realty as an organization has done in this space, I'm going to spend just few minutes talking about Tata Realty. It's a 35-year-old organization, 100% subsidiary of Tata Sons, delivered 53 projects and completed 32 million square feet. We are present across all segments of real estate. That's what makes Tata Realty unique in residential, commercial, retail, and even hospitality. We currently have 43 million square feet at various stages of development across 15 cities. So it's quite substantial. On the right-hand side, if you were to see, and that's what we are promoting, we have built and leased over 6.2 million square feet of commercial real estate, largest being Ramanujam IT Park. And we have currently 20 million square feet at various design stages and about 12 million square feet where we are trying to acquire new assets. And recently did 1 million square feet in the current financial year, which was very helpful considering that it's a pandemic year. We felt that we needed to communicate with the market of what Tata Realty stands for when it comes to office environment. And we were actually quite an early starter when we created Ramanujam ITSEZ in Chennai, which is 4 million square feet development. And then we substantially created a lot of park spaces for TCS, close to 10 million square feet across various parts of the country. This Tata standard was captured in a brand called Intellion, which is basically intelligent workspaces, which rested on 3 pillars of collaboration, dynamic, and modernity in intelligent building solutions. So that's what this brand stands for. We are amongst the few developers who are present generally across all key markets. So most of the developers you would see concentrated in South, which is the largest market in India, and West. But there are very few who actually got presence across. The new wave that you see happening in commercial real estate space is the private equity and real estate funds who have a very financial objective and goal, and they too are present across all geographies. On the left of the screen, you see our various parks and properties across the length and breadth, where our goal would be to touch 45 million square feet in the times to come. Very quickly, to be relevant to our discussion today, how Intellion thought through as a strategy to connect with the occupiers and listen to the occupiers, and more importantly, not just create a commercial construct, but understand, for example, in Ramanujam Intellion Park in Chennai, where you have over 50,000 people, how to create a safe work environment. And nobody would have thought, 12 years ago, when this product was conceived, that we chose to install 13 MERV filter air conditioning, which was considered overspec at that point of time, but we felt it was important, and we make that extra investment. Today, we're talking about 14 and 15 MERV filters to create better air quality. And as more awareness and data points get available to all the occupiers, there is more conscious efforts by all of us to make sure that we make the necessary investment and create this environment. And I think, as I spoke earlier, as more and more occupiers come and implement various tools and technologies and roll out measures to further enhance the safety and security and well-being, we will be listening once again very carefully to ensure that we actually do that. A very high level why we felt the need of wellness at work is clearly because an average employee spends over 50 hours of their week at work. They consume 1/3 of their meal at work. They spend 90% of time indoors breathing 3,000 gallons of air each day. And indoor air is 5x times more polluted, as we know, than the outdoor. And therefore, this has really, as more data points are shared, more and more awareness and consciousness has actually spread, and therefore the benchmark for the real estate industry has gone up. And I think with private equity space coming in even more, you will see a lot more investment in this space. And that's why we thought it's important to create a healthier work environment with Intellion. And the three pillars that I was talking about kind of resonates with that philosophy. Intelligent, relevant workspaces. So it should not be a property built 10 years ago. What is important is whether it is relevant for the occupiers today, and therefore it has the intelligent tools and systems. Are we creating enough space where there is a networking and socializing? I know it's very odd to talk about when we are discussing social distances, but I'm hoping over next 12 months, a time will again come when we will go back to these work environments and try and optimize the human productivity through collaborative and networking, which is so important given the nature of the businesses that we do and how dynamic we are. Right during pandemic, we rolled out many touchless experiences in our property. And it was heartening to see how so many vendors were able to quickly create solutions. And I have no doubt that going forward, the original equipment manufacturers will already be on the drawing board to roll out by next year some very innovative tools. And I think that's why the dynamic approach of a development company like ours is important. So these are the three pillars that Intellion Offices believes in, and I will constantly make sure that we upgrade our standards to accommodate the occupier standards that we so value. At a very high level, some of the features that we provided across three buckets that we created, without going into the details, all are basic but extremely important, and every line item is given same weightage by Intellion Offices across, and I believe every other developer in the country. As we know, we have the largest collections of sustainable buildings in the world. So generally, the benchmarks in the country are equal to global standards. The recent increase of captives trying to set up more in India, I think is another opportunity where we see. So whether it is Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, and many such global players, including Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and not to mention the recent increase in penetration of data centers across. All this will enable us to create new standards because occupiers are looking at India with the latest and the best. The recent expansion of e-commerce companies like the Amazons is also an opportunity because they are bringing massive amount of real estate in the country and trying to peg against the best global standards. So I have no doubt that this will raise the bar of the Indian real estate and make India competitive while achieving global safety and wellness standards. So one of the areas, for example, we are looking at is how do we make these investment of workspaces, but also at the same time make our occupiers more competitive. And I want to just take one example. In Ramanujam IT Park, where we have individual buildings being cooled separately, which was the right thing to do, I'm so glad that we had created provisions for district cooling systems, which is what now we're looking at. And the total energy consumption of our property in Chennai, 60% of that goes for air conditioning. And by switching to district cooling, we intend to make savings of close to 15%, not to mention the impact on the environment. So these are some very conscious decisions that we are taking, and I think every developer would also be thinking about how to remain ahead of the curve, how to respond to the occupiers. Some initiatives I'm taking from Tata Realty of what we as an organization, as an occupier of office space, are doing. And I'm very proud to say that right at the beginning of the pandemic, rather prior to the pandemic only, we felt that we needed to create some kind of digital engagement with our employees. And we rolled out this tool called Sociable, which is a secured environment for employees to communicate with their respective verticals, but more importantly, cross verticals, and therefore, uh, you know, become more aware of the organization's initiatives and the business overall. What we did not know, of course, was that there would be a 9 months of lockdown of pandemic, and this tool actually helped emotionally. And I think a lot of our colleagues who were suddenly isolated, suddenly deprived of what was the normal, have used this very strongly and have remained emotionally connected, and actually has helped substantially to kind of overcome the challenges that we face in the workspace environment and at home, which will now be a new norm. Likewise, we saw a lot of initiatives that we took specific to environment, a lot of self-initiation done by the employees of the organization to make everybody aware. One such area was diversity, and I think it's part of our environment, and that's something that we have always promoted. And I think there's a sense of realization that how that helps and benefits the organization. And then, of course, we made sure that the citizens of the organization get actually the opportunity to be able to contribute. So a lot of trees were planted, and I think there was a larger purpose at Tata Sons to ensure that the combined, carbon footprint of the group is reduced, and therefore that's where Tata Realty is doing its bit to ensure that we run various campaigns and plant trees, and we continue to do so. Another area that I wanted to talk about, which is far more relevant today, is the emotional well-being of the people. And I think while we create the infrastructure necessary, which is about the wellness and the well-being and the health of the employees, it is also to do how they feel personally about themselves. And these are some initiatives that Tata Realty HR took. 41 candidates got scholarship for girls, 50 candidates got entrepreneurship development program opportunity, over 950 employees got all the other kinds of initiatives that we took within the organization. 77 construction workers were skilled, over 3,000 employees awareness regarding health, and 940 employees about, about COVID. In fact, we actually rolled out a scheme, a medical scheme to ensure that the COVID is treated for all employees and all their family members from home, from remotely, and we provide medication to them. So right, sticking to the ethos of Tata Group, we have tried to ensure that we actually on the ground implement and therefore demonstrate that Tata Realty does care, that the new corporate work ethics demand that we care about the wellness and well-being of the employees. So this is what I wanted to share with Nimish. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to my fellow colleagues and learn some insights from them.
Thanks a lot, Sanjay. So, I mean, some really, really innovative approach, and making sure that you're creating benchmarks for others to follow as well, Sanjay. I would now like to invite Mr. Sandeep Sethi, MD Corporate Solutions West Asia, JLL, to share his perspective of the market and how things are evolving, as well as what the future holds for the survival and success of the property segment. Sandeep.
Thank you, Nimish, and delighted to be on this panel along with Sanjay and Hari. Thank you for this opportunity, RICS. Sanjay made some really good points, and the facts that he showed us around the amount of time we spend in the office, the amount of air we breathe in the office, the amount of food we eat in the office or in indoor environments, it just drives the point home that this topic that we're discussing today on wellness and safety is so important. And it's so heartening to see developers driving projects with a higher sense of purpose. It's just the start of a wonderful journey, which I think is just what the world needs. So I'm going to continue to build on that in the next 10 minutes or so. On March 25th, we all went into a lockdown mode. And at very short notice, companies had to pack up their boxes and laptops, desktops, in some cases UPSs, ship them to employees' homes. And we started a journey towards the new normal. And we, as business leaders, we had to strike a balance between making sure the business keeps thriving and our commitment to the employees. Now, employees have been going through a very difficult time across every sector, not just the organized corporate world, but in every unorganized sector as well. There's a lot of uncertainty. People are having to deal with the virus. People are having to deal with lack of certainty around their own employment. And at the same time, people who are working, they have to wear multiple hats. And driving that balance has not been easy. And at the same time now, as we are today as well, we've had to manage having virtual meetings. And being interrupted by pets and children is not uncommon these days. It is just a very difficult time. Amit, if I can request you to move to the next slide now, please. So we have seen that working from home is taking a toll on the mental and physical health also of employees. There is no line, as we say, between work and home anymore. The lines are blurred. We are not commuting, but we're using the time, or we're spending the time on calls, virtual calls or virtual meetings, or just audio calls. It's just leading to a lot of physical health issues as well. I've had a lot of backaches in the last few months. I have colleagues who are saying they find it hard to sleep. I have colleagues who say they always just feel stressed all the time. And it's manifesting in many ways. Mood swings are common. You hear from people often that they just are on they just sort of get upset at the drop of a hat. And these are just manifestations of the stress that's working behind the scenes, thanks to this whole world we're living in these days. As it is, the world was stressful, and this situation has only made it worse. So working from home or WFH stress is real. There's no doubt about it. Now, as a business leader, as an employer, I have read, and I'm sure everyone has read, a lot of articles which show there's a direct relationship between employee stress levels and performance output. Now, having known that, it would be a shame for us to not do anything about it, because you don't want to have stressed employees, unhappy employees managing your clients. It obviously is going to be detrimental to your business. So investing in wellness initiatives makes good business sense, besides the fact that it's just the right thing to do as well. Amit, next slide, please. Now, back to what Sanjay said, 90% of the times employees spend in indoor environments. Wellness is becoming important for developers, as we heard Sanjay say as well. It's becoming even more important for occupiers. The current situation has brought wellness and well-being to the forefront. Just like sustainability was on every CEO's agenda, wellness and well-being is now on the CEO's mandate as well. And it's not just a box they have to check because it's the right thing to say, the right thing to do. I think it's going to be the condition of employment. Or rather, I should say, when employees go to work for any company, they will look for the company's or the employee's commitment to this agenda. It is going to be that important. Now, if you go to the next slide, please, Amit. So given this, buildings are going to have to be tweaked or redesigned to ensure that they can support the wellness initiatives or the wellness agenda. Now, This will have to be done for sure in new construction projects, like Sanjay was talking about how the Tata Realty Group has created a completely different ethos around workplaces, or it can be done through renovations in existing buildings as well. And it's not just about structural changes. It requires a lot of changes at the holistic level. But in short, we're talking about a psychological contract that basically defines a set of unwritten expectations that employees will have of employers. The game has turned. In the past, employers would set the rules, and now, in a way, employees are setting the rules. I will not work for you, Mr. Employer, if you don't promote a safe environment. It is becoming that important. And employees have options these days. Of course, unemployment is high in today's context, but when times do improve, employees will have options. Now, different aspects or many different aspects make up wellness in a building. So developers, designers, architects, they're looking at this very holistically. They're looking at indoor air quality. They're looking at lighting levels. They're looking at the way the building is designed to ensure that wellness is promoted in a subtle or indirect manner or in a very direct manner. You can see a lot of companies don't want their employees to sit in one place for a long time, because sitting in one place is not good for the health. So they'll constantly create activities to ensure employees keep moving. And that has nothing to do with how Sanjay may design his building, for example, but that has got to do with a holistic approach employers will take to think of wellness as an integral part of how employees experience it when they come to work there. You can see lighting, for example. Natural lighting is becoming more and more important for not just designers and architects, but for occupiers as well. So when companies look for space to be leased out for their offices, they certainly look for the amount of sunlight that comes in. And that doesn't just allow the place to look beautiful, but it also has a biological impact on the body. Next slide, please. Now, let's not forget the fact that a healthy workplace is beyond just the physical workplace. The American Psychological Association, APA, basically defined what a healthy workplace should be, and they included 4 or 5 different elements. Well-being, health, and safety is, of course, one of them, but employee inclusion, work-life balance, employee growth and recognition are also as much part of it as just well-being. So you can understand why I was saying that it's beyond just the structural aspects of building design. It goes to every aspect. So if a company really needs to be conscious of its commitment towards wellness, they have to look at their HR policies, they have to look at the culture, they have to look at manager sensitization, they have to look at driving more empathy in the workplace as well, especially in the new context where you will have many employees working from remote locations or working from home. Being able to address mental well-being of employees is going to be very important as well. The HR community has been saying for the last many months that mental well-being is the next pandemic. And if we don't address that part of it well, we are going to walk into a very, very difficult period where employees will be stressed, businesses will suffer, and some businesses may collapse. Employees could be struggling with a lot more issues than ever before. Companies, fortunately, have become very, very conscious. And this journey has started a few years ago. I think the COVID situation has only accelerated the transformation. Companies are being driven by a higher sense of purpose. Sanjay beautifully articulated how the Tata Group is looking at bringing in core values into how they design their commercial complexes, keeping in mind the end users' well-being and safety. And that's how many companies are approaching their sense of purpose as well. Many years back, Thomas Friedman had said the corporates or the corporate world's only social responsibility is to generate returns for shareholders. That was probably one of the biggest mistakes in our thinking as a human race. Of course, we've evolved since then, and now we believe that corporate performance should be measured by a sense of commitment towards the environment, social responsibility, communities, employees' welfare, etc. And hence, we are starting to see a lot more focus on other aspects that corporates didn't focus on. If you can go to the next slide, please, Amit. So you're starting to see companies take the whole well-being agenda, the whole CSR agenda, the diversity agenda, the sustainability agenda to the next level. Every company has senior business leaders driving this. Every company has realized that we are at an inflection point. We can either go to the left or we go to the right. The left is basically we just make the situation worse, and we don't do a bit because we don't think it's our responsibility to do that. We feel our responsibility is just to focus on results. That'd be a big lost opportunity. Whereas if we go to the right, we will be part of the movement that will drive the change for the better. And this is where I see a lot of responsible and conscious organizations moving towards. And wellness hence becomes a part of this holistic transformational journey that corporates are driving. It is not a piece that stands on itself. If you have a corporate that's going to drive wellness but not look at the whole thing holistically and not drive the other aspects that indirectly or directly impact on wellness, then they're not going to get a big bang for the buck. They will not be able to move the needle. And hence I've said that we have reached an inflection point and we clearly have a role to play here. I'm just conscious of time. It's 10 minutes up and I'll take a pause and turn it back over to you, Nimish. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thanks a lot. Even though it was abruptly finished that way, Sandeep, but it was actually very eye-opening. So before we commence with a much awaited panel discussion, I would like to invite Mr. Hariprasad Hegde, FRICS, Senior Vice President and Global Head of Operations Wipro, to deliver his special address. Thank you, sir, for having spared time from your busy schedule to be here today. You have for long been a torchbearer of the changing vision of the workplace and its impact of employee productivity and business continuity. Look forward to hearing from you, sir.
Thank you, Nimish. Firstly, congratulations on putting together a great discussion forum, right? And it's really nice to be here among Sanjay, Sandeep, all of you, and RICS. Thank you for the opportunity. Am I able to share my screen? Is the screen visible, Nimish?
Yes, it is visible, Mr. Hegde. You will have to push the slideshow.
Yeah, I suppose yes.
There you go.
Right.
Perfect.
You know, I will. The subject is vast, so I'll make my remarks on two topics. One is on workspace design, and the second is, if I have time, a limited argument that a workplace that is, designed around or built around ecological sustainability invariably turns out to be also healthy, right? Workplaces are constructed and designed to meet needs of work and the worker. This then leads to the argument that in a rapidly changing world, a deep understanding of the nature of work itself, that's the functional aspect of work, and the evolving needs of the worker, that's the anthropological dimensions to work, I think are critical when we think through designing and developing workplaces, right? So in the remaining 10 minutes or so, I will make few remarks with this in the background, and also take you all through some visuals of how we and Wipro have responded to this. Coming to what's defining workspace, right? We are actually in a period of a serious global talent shortage. Korn Ferry projects this global shortage to get to about 85 million by 2030. Then it's prudent for organizations to give talent what it wants. Then the question is, what does talent want? They want workspaces to be effective. They need to be connected to a larger purpose. So this is about many different aspects of human experience, what anthropologists will call holism, right? So let me pick up a softer element of identity and pride in our workplace. What you see here on screen is actually the large Wipro campus in Bangalore that will house 25,000 people. In a world that's getting more uniform because of the global linkages, identity and character and pride in a place that you go to work is also critical. So this particular architectural design picks up from the ancient temples of Halebidu, and hence a local identity. Now let me get to the second aspect. Work is getting multidisciplinary, and innovation is getting to be central to being effective and staying relevant. That too in a non-linear world. So variety in the kind of spaces and the ability to make that choice has become an essential amenity, right? So let's now see what kind of spaces. Innovation hubs for Scrum teams to come together, spaces for focused work, outdoors, quiet spaces, all of these need to get provided in your workplace for you to make choices as to where you would want to go ahead and perform what kind of work, right? Now, let me sort of also mention that it is the third aspect, the digital technology that permitted us to flip quickly to work from home. We are, as an organization today, 98% plus work from home. That itself has underscored the criticality of social capital. So face-to-face matters. So if face-to-face matters, workspace design should sort of, sort of harbor or promote chance encounters. That will actually quickly get a sense of community amongst the employees. So how are these, how have these manifested in our design in workspaces in India and overseas is something that I would like to kind of quickly flip through visuals and take you through. This is flexible workspaces in our campus in Bangalore. These are garages that are used for innovation and innovation hubs, connecting people to foster community. Both visual connections and chance meetings in the design have become critical. This is about conversation over coffee. These are different choices of restaurants in our facilities, and outdoor is important. This is a campus for 25,000 people in less than 20 acres, but provides for 55% of outdoor space, which is biodiverse and green. Now let me come to Hyderabad as an example. This is the Hyderabad campus. I'm just taking you all through quickly through the visuals of what we have done with our offices in the last half a decade. I would want to spend a little time on the idea of cognitive spaces. The idea of cognitive spaces is that embellishments that we use to design workspaces can also stoke curiosity and nudge human sensibilities. The human sensibilities could be around social issues, political issues, and ecological issues. Here are some examples. These 60 oil are made by the transgenders, but they are there not because they are made by transgenders, because of bringing an issue of equity and inclusivity to the fore in our discussions. This is about certain realities, social realities in the country. This is marking the pandemic. this is on an ecological issue. So while we are thinking through embellishment for workspaces, can we get deeper and use that opportunity to nudge people's sensibilities? Let me also take you all quickly through some of the images of our international offices. I'm just going to quickly go through them. This is the Brooklyn office. This is a picture of the real office in Brooklyn. And let me take you through other offices. This is in Mountain View, California. This is the Innovation Center, and let me flip through again. This is Guadalajara in Mexico. So next, this is Plano, Texas. This is Atlanta, Georgia. This is our London office, right? So the reason I sort of took you all through a visual journey of some of our offices in India and overseas is, these design thinking has significantly transformed the way we go ahead and create our offices. That is the point that I wanted to underscore. Now, in the next minute or two, I would like to make this argument that sustainable workplaces are inherently healthy and support employee well-being. This is the idea of climate adaptive integrated design we put together and we used in design of our Hyderabad facility. The idea was get the architect, get a climate engineer, get the structural engineers, and get them together to thinking through of a climate adaptive design before even an architect goes ahead and thinks through what should be the architectural design, right? So the outcome is in Hyderabad, the facility is going to have 47% natural ventilation, 33% reduction in HVAC, 100% daylight, and so on. Let me go on to kind of, this is the final outcome, and this facility will be up and will be completed by March this year. And what's interesting, I said, okay, if we are really capable of climate responsive design, the proof is actually in demonstrating it. This facility would have 80,000 square feet of open courtyard that is comfort cooled without air conditioning. It uses only shade, greenery, thermal mass, and dry mist, a very, very sort of a passive, low energy cooling, comfort cooling solution. And this 80,000 square feet of courtyard would be used 365 days, where Hyderabad temperatures touch 42 degrees plus, right? Now, let me sort of take you through this last slide. This is the Bangalore Kodati campus. Here, this has a double skin and it's 100% day lit. The proof of 100% being day lit is that this facility has no blinds. The entire 25,000 employee space is completely 100% day lit. The window wall ratio is of just about 40%, and this is the first largest 2.5 million square feet of complete underfloor system. Hence, I think we are at some of the most energy efficient systems globally. Now, coming to this is the last slide, coming to indoor air quality. I think Sandeep mentioned about health and well-being. What you see on the left-hand side is a full stack reference grade weather station in our campus in Sarjapur. On the right-hand side, what you see is the indoor environment in the facility, in the Kodati facility, is at reset standards. That would mean you have continuous measurement of the 5 parameters, and what you see is actually the monitor that you will find in each of the indoor spaces. So we went ahead and did this much prior to the pandemic. So in many ways, we were pandemic ready even before the pandemic hit us. So hence my argument that if we keep ecological sustainability and sensibilities around social issues, the workspaces and workplaces end up being productive, end up meeting employees' larger needs, and also ends up being healthy and takes care of the well-being of the employees. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for sharing this opportunity to share with all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Hegde. Some very, very interesting products, and I think very innovative approach in terms of design aspirations to be taken from our heritage. Loved all of those. Thanks a lot for this elite panel to give us a futuristic view of what should be happening with the CRA space. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand over the floor to the moderator for today's panel discussion. I'm sure it is going to be extremely enriching and engaging. Over to Mr. Rajat Malhotra, APEC Head, Engineering Operations, Corporate Solutions, JLL. Over to you, Rajat.
Thank you so much, Nimish. I'm privileged to be moderating such an august panel. I'm sure with the gravitas of experience resident in this panel, it will be a very fruitful and enlightening discussion. I will, of course, have the unenviable task of packing all of your insights, all my co-panelists, into 1 hour. But let me start by introducing the panel to all of you. We have Ms. Reena Wahi, and may I request all the panelists to turn on their webcams as well. We have Ms. Reena Wahi. She's the Senior Vice President and Head, Human Resources, Corporate Social Responsibility, Tata Realty. Thank you, Reena. We have Mr. Amit Ramani, Founder and CEO of AWFIS. Mr. Chris Nicholl, Managing Director, Asia Pacific RICS. Mr. Aravind Babu Ramaraju, Director, Workplace Experience, Cognitive Technology Solutions. Mr. Sandeep Kapur, Executive Director, Head of Corporate Services, India, Morgan Stanley. Ms. Deepa Kakkar, Senior Leader, HR, India and APJ, Sienna India Private Limited. And Ms. Laila Khalil, Director of Corporate Operations and Community Relations, Lowe's India. So thank you so much. It's indeed a stellar panel. So I'm going to get cracking straight away. I'll just do a quick introduction into the topic of the panel. So I think as regards the topic, this is a much talked about subject, especially in the past 10 months. However, as the world traverses through these unprecedented times, the relevance of this topic is only getting further reinforced and underlined. While a process and practice emphasis on safety at workplace goes far back into time as possibly the advent of organized FM, wellness and well-being, on the other hand, has gained significant traction and prominence in the past 5 years. And I think both Sandeep, Mr. Hari, as well as Sanjay have spoken of it. This is directly attributable to the compelling evidence of the correlation between indoor environmental quality and health, well-being, and productivity. Let me give you some very interesting example. The discovery of a gene in our DNA called the circadian gene dates back to as recently as October of 2017. I mean, the research has been going on, but the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine in 2017 went to a team of doctors who isolated the circadian gene for the first time. And they decoded just how we are wired to follow the cycle of the sun through 200,000 years of human evolution. So we are actually wired, genetically wired, to follow the cycle of the sun. So this, has become the basis of intelligent lighting systems called the circadian lighting systems, right? And this establishes a direct correlation between physical workplace environment and our happiness and productivity, because our endocrine system's ability to produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone, or serotonin, which is a happiness hormone, or melatonin, which is a calming hormone, has a huge dependence on the kind of lighting that our eye senses. So it's amazing how this research is leading to direct correlation between health well-being and the physical workspace. So as per recent JLL survey, 65% of CRE leaders, business leaders in India are overwhelmingly planning to prioritize investment in health and wellness of their employees in 2021 and years to come. Our research further suggests that 54% of building managers rate occupant comfort and well-being as very influential in shaping their own building operation strategies, right? I think more recently, all of us have been wired to what's WHO, CDC, ASHRAE, REWA, ISHRAE have been saying. All these are very credible bodies, and they have correlated parameters of indoor environment quality to the transmissibility and virulence of the pathogen, which has taken all of us by the scruff of our necks, right? So all of this, I think, represents a very sizable opportunity and need for collaboration between a savvy and aware C-suite. All right, the panel that we'll talk of today and the panel that is there before you will explore that intersection between CHROs and CRE strategies and how these functions can collectively design organizational culture and policies to impact employee well-being. So thank you again to all the panelists for having joined this discussion. Let me start with Reena. Reena, from human-centric workplace to a humane-centric workplace, what are the steps being taken by organizations to make workplaces conscious and more inclusive? Reena, over to you.
So I think one of the fundamental shifts which has happened, and one of the earlier speakers talked about, is while that shift has been happening, it's got aggravated now and kind of took a different shape, is empathy into everything. So humaneness of empathy is something which is now inbuilt as one of the ingredient in terms of how you're going to make space more inclusive, how you're going to make spaces more safe. So the concept of psychological wellness is something which is taking over the concept of wellness, which was just, you do something which is required to do from an OSAS compliance perspective or any other compliance perspective. But today it's more about, are you creating space where an employee feels safe to come back? Are you able to provide that kind of environment where it is creating not any kind of stress to kind of say, am I safe enough to go back to a workplace? Would I be safe enough to kind of make sure that when I come back from workplace, I am not passing on the same pandemic to my, close ones? So is my family is going to be safe? Are my parents going to be safe? Is somebody who has an illness and a prone to illness is going to be safe? So I think, therefore, the larger perspective of looking well-being just beyond an employee coming to your workplace is going beyond and even adding to the perspective of family and society. So, a lot of efforts which have gone in the last 9 months have been educating employees about, how to be safe themselves, how to make sure that when they're entering a workplace, they are in a safe environment, and also keeping themselves safe, following practices, protocols, which will ensure the safety of not only the people around, but also the safety of people back at home. So I think that's where the larger spectrum of making sure your family back home, your extended vendor partners, your other stakeholders are also safe as a larger framework. So for HR itself today, the humane aspect is not just limited to an employee who's coming and spending 8 hours, but also to the larger universe which they operate into. So I think that's a fundamental change which has clearly happened. A lot of decision making, in terms of inclusive approach of saying that, are you willing to come and work? Do you feel secure? So when you ask people to come back and report on duty, they may say that, I cannot come. What can I do? So how do you make sure that your work structures, your work models are designed in a manner that it's inclusive? You are taking their buy-in in terms of how, what makes them comfortable to come back to office, and structure your work around it. Lot of inclusiveness of managers in making sure that they provide that comfort, because they are the first point of contact. So if somebody comes and tells you that, look, I don't feel comfortable coming back to office because of X reason, be empathetic about it, because that could be a genuine concern. If there's a mild fever, being empathetic about it, because that could be a genuine concern. So I think a lot of humaneness around in terms of how you touch the human aspect, and making sure that when employees come back, they feel that they're entering a very secure and a safe environment, not for themselves, but people at large.
I think fabulous perspective. There's some interesting points on the domain of influence, right? I think the last 10 months have suddenly expanded our domain of influence. And therefore, what we do in Workspace is going to impact not only our own employees, but it's going to impact the whole universe that they influence, right? So it's quite amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Reena. Amit, the business model, the USP of your business model is actually experience for the occupant, right? And health, wellness is such a key component of that experience. So what is your view on the humane-centric workspace?
So, Rajat, obviously, a lot of this has been talked about for the whole number of years. It's just fast-tracked because of the pandemic, right? Clearly, at least from our standpoint, I think what we have, ensured is that safety and hygiene is a given, right? It's like, is the building structurally safe? Is that even a question mark? So same way, is the facility and the building safe and hygiene for people to come back? That's a given. It's not even a choice anymore, right? So you have to make sure that if you run a facility as a CRE or as a co-working player, that's a given. I think beyond that, I think 2-3 interesting things are happening. I think one, we strongly feel that people are not going to come back to the old normal, right? I mean, we are now in a distributed work environment. So clearly our belief is that organizations as well as providers such as us have to give multiple options to people to work at a HO location which is safe and hygienic. We have to give work near home options, and we have to give work at home options, right? And no longer can CRE or players like us take a call that I'm only going to solve one piece of the puzzle, because one piece of the puzzle does not solve for the broadest requirements that are there in the environment today. Second, coming to even the locations that are being designed. Earlier, it was about a desk and a chair, and yes, there was a sustainability, hygiene, well-being, etc. was talked about. But today it is about centricity of what are you solving for, right? Because you can't go back and say that I'll give you a workplace and there'll be a few collab areas and meeting rooms, etc. You have to recast the whole approach, right? So clearly, what work gets done now at a, let's say, a central location is very different what it used to be done before. So clearly the humaneness will come from the fact that you have to provide for the individual need, the group need, and as well as the customer visitor need. You can't intermingle it all anymore, right? So that choice of saying, I will just design a facility and you hope that people will use it as and when they imagine to use it, will have clear boundaries, and the humaneness of the design will happen in that direction. The third, and is a very important point, and I know we have grade A occupiers, multinational companies on this panel. Only 30% of the facilities that we are talking about are occupied by such occupiers. So for us, it is about not just creating an affordable workspace, it's about creating an affordable and safe workspace for 70% of the population. That comes into grade A minus, B and C facilities, right? So clearly it has to go much larger than what people were focused on. And then obviously the mental well-being also becomes a part and parcel of the facility manager's ambit or the CRE professional's ambit, because now it's not just about, when I'm in the facility, am I having a safe environment? It is about the continuous process of how am I able to make my employees most productive, be it inside, be it some satellite location, or be it work from home. So I think these are the trends that we are clearly seeing are things that are changing from a human to a humane-centric design.
Yeah, awesome. So I think we are solving for there's no cookie cutter approach. Exactly. I think we are solving for a very dynamic work environment. We are solving for hybrid work environment. We are solving for new expectations that this entire last 10 months has created as well. So you're right. I think there's a need for us to recast the way we look at workspace and make it humane-centric, as you said. So, Arvind, your role says it all, right? Who would have thought that for one of the biggest IT/ITES firms in India with such a huge and enviable real estate holding, which is such a huge employee base, you would have somebody focusing on workplace experience, right? So obviously, humane-centric workspaces is such a large component of that entire workspace experience in your role. So tell us what your views are from a large corporate perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Rajat. And I fully echo what Reena and Amit have also been saying. In terms of workplace experience, when you add the letter E to human, right, it does very interesting things. For a physicist, let's say E is energy, or let's say the electron charge, and for someone who is into finance, it's into earnings. But someone like us who are into designing experience and ensuring associates or employees go back with a positive experience each day, it brings a whole gamut of things to consider. Reena mentioned empathy. I think that's a very, very big word. And I just want to put three more words around that, and I think that kind of summarizes what we need to look at. The first one is emotion, right? The pandemic has put us back in a position where the whole service providers, let's say people like us who are into workplace services, our own users, which are our associates, and the complete stakeholder system into a gamut of emotions. What we were supposed to be otherwise doing at a workplace, we are now trying to make sure that people do that near home, like Amit was mentioning, at home, near home, or even sometimes out of their comfort zones as well. So there's a lot of emotion that gets handled there. And second one is, of course, going back from empathy, the kind of engagement we can build in at the workplace itself. When an associate comes to work or to the workplace, how are you going to design it? How are you going to create it? And what is that you kind of attempt to provide so that people go back wanting to come back again. People go wanting to make sure that they come to deliver what is expected of them. And this doesn't happen, like Amit said, just a chair and a HVAC system on a desk, right? It has to happen with a range of things that engage associates so that they can come back. Major Hari was mentioning about creating a sense of pride with the local culture. And again, Sanjay has very clearly explained the kind of forethought that they have put in the Ramanujam campus, and the kind of so many number of people just by coming there, how there is so much using a digital platform, how the engagement has been built in. And next is that we can definitely look at a sense of enlightenment, right? So much is happening around us. One is we are experiencing, and when we go back as an associate, kind of engage with our other associates and our colleagues and our friends, there is so much of enlightenment that is reflecting back to us. So that is something also a workplace should look at. And I think Amit has rightly pointed out that these casual places where people can talk up, catch up, the stance encounters and the collab spaces, this is where would be the mirror for engagement and enlightenment for associates. And lastly, the last word which I'd want to add is example. So we'll design places. We hope that people automatically learn like they do with an iPhone. What can it do later, right? But beyond that, what we can definitely do is lead by example and create these opportunities to associates, saying that this is the ideal utility of this collab space. This is the ideal utility of how we're going to engage in a particular area, and what is it that the leadership is doing at the workspace, experiencing them, engaging with them, and getting enlightened and leading by example. If we can put together all of these things, I think the workplace experience is that much more richer, Rajat.
Thanks, Arvind. So I've caught on to some terms that you've used, right? Reena started with emotions. Amit has spoken of empowerment. You've spoken of enlightenment, right? So Sandeep, I think, when we are talking of all of this, we are talking of enlightenment, empowerment, and who would have thought associating empathy with workspace, right? Maybe a decade ago. But today, what's happening is a lot of employees, reality is a lot of employees are very, very anxious to come back to work. We ran a survey for most of our large clients, and the percentage of people returning to work, despite the government saying up to 30%, is still in the range of 10 to 15% at the most. Now, other countries in Asia Pacific are higher than us. We are amongst the lowest. So I think clearly there's a whole lot of anxiety that employees have to come back to work. How do we address this, Sandeep? What is being done to address this anxiety of coming back to work in these times?
So there are a couple of things, Rajat, which can be done at such a time. Obviously, the employees are concerned. And one of the things is, how do we build the awareness in the employees to tell them what are the steps that we have taken? We've just got to be able to convey to them that we have done and taken all these measures so we can build the confidence. So one of the things could be that you engage this team, the CHR, the real estate teams, they engage with the leadership at all levels and get them to engage with smaller teams, do a couple of sessions, share a couple of videos, share a couple of PowerPoint decks to just very visual. We've seen some good visual designs today, which very quickly tell us what's happening. So we share and we cover all aspects of it to say, how's the employee going to be picked up? What's the commute going to be like? What's it going to be like when you walk into an office? What are the changes that we've made? Have we gone into touchless? There are concerns that need to get addressed. So the employee should be left with a feeling, wow, everything that I think has been thought of. Yet I have these concerns. So how do we actually go back and take those concerns? So there's got to be an open dialogue that we need to set up with the employees. Like someone said, they are a really important part of what we are building out. Our facilities are now more employee-centric. I do see that change coming in. And then there are other concerns which we may not be able to address. So we can address the workplace concerns. But what about the concerns like aged parents at home, young children whom they go back to every day and think those are some of the concerns which they have. So maybe the next part is educating them to see what are the hygiene levels. If they maintain, then it would be possible to really come to the workplace and still continue to work in that manner. So it's again building confidence, creating awareness, and just making sure that the holistic workplace that we are building is more employee-centric than ever.
Thanks, Sandeep. So I think important point that you raised is that one of the most important things is communication, right? Build awareness and reassure them that the workspace that they're coming into has taken care of whatever is possible to ensure their own safety and well-being. And I think you're taking a step forward and saying, what do they need to do also to ensure the safety and well-being? And Reena touched upon this, of people back home, right? Because ultimately, when you're stepping out of your homes and the confines of your homes, you're exposing yourself. I mean, this is the reality of the situation today. It's like the common cold, right? It's as infectious as it is. So thanks, Sandeep. These are important perspectives. Chris, you obviously are working out of Singapore. You have a view of what's happening in that part of the world. We have a view of this part of the world, plus also owing to our clients and different roles that we have, look at Asia Pacific. What are your insights, advice around addressing the anxiety issue with employees? Because I think this issue about employees being anxious to come back to workspace is prevalent everywhere. It does not know any national boundaries, right? It may vary because the situation of the virus is different in different parts of the globe. But what are your views, Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Rajit. Look, I have to say, I would endorse many of the remarks made already from the point of view that I think, communication is absolutely essential. We know it's at the root of many problems in business. We also know it's the genesis of successful execution around opportunities and ideas. And I pick up on Reena's point about empathy. I think this is such a personal subject for everyone, for the reasons described in terms of protecting families, loved ones, particularly in that we also all live in very different settings. You know, typical living environment is very different to one in Australia. That manifests different challenges and problems, and so empathy in communication, I think, is essential. I pick up on Sandeep's point. You know, giving people a sense of confidence around really having thought through the way as an organization you execute on the health and safety issues is obviously essential. But I think, you know, as I reflect on my own experience around working from home for such a long period of time, the other thing that comes to mind is the attributes that have been spoken about in terms of the experience at work, the connection with colleagues, the interplays that actually do accelerate opportunities being accessed, problems being solved, and that is a function of the things that were spoken about in terms of, you know, the environment, in terms of the natural light, the fresh air, the different work settings, the things that create an aspiration, if you like, to return to work, because it is a place where it enhances productivity, but at the same time, there is this recognition that since we've worked at home for such a long period of time, the flexibility is important. But finding the conversation in your own organization that manages one of the issues that I think was raised also, in terms of the fact that people work the commute time that they didn't previously work in quite the same way, that there is no definition between the beginning and end of a work day. It just blurs into existence. Those things, I think, are where this empathy and understanding just what the pulling power, the aspirational value of getting back to work help in the conversation to attract people back to work in a traditional setting, vis-a-vis, you know, what they've been experiencing. It is. I think it goes beyond just giving them a confidence around health and safety. That's obviously paramount, but beyond that, there's got to be a want to come back, because as you said just in my final comments, Rajit, in different parts of the region, there are different allowances in terms of what you can do in terms of going back to work. But in many places, people still haven't gone back to the level that they're allowed to, because people are being slow to take up the opportunity to go back, and their employers are giving them that flexibility. That's not a bad thing, but what brings them back, it's not just the health and safety, it's the fact that there is some value proposition attached to going back, in my mind.
Yeah, I think great points. And you talked about the blurring of lines between personal and workspace. And I think, Deepa, the next question is for you. And before I come on to you, I think Guneet or Kaval were to run a poll question as well for the audience. So I want to just trigger that for them. And if they share those results with me, I'll share those with all of you as well. But I think there is something very important here, Deepa, is this whole, this whole blurring of lines between personal and workspace. And Sandeep said that, a child or a pet coming into the background or the foreground is not unusual. But I mean, these kind of things also, they do take a lot of toll on well-being and mental health, because there is no physical boundary between workspace and personal space. And not everybody is able to deal with that fluidity, right? What is being done by organizations, and what is your advice, Deepa, for organizations and individuals to do to remain centered in this very new kind of normal? Deepa, are you able to hear me? I seem to have lost. I seem to have lost audio.
We can hear you, Rajat.
All right, I'm not able to hear Deepa then. I think.
Yeah, can't hear Deepa. That's right.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think while Deepa sorts out her audio, Laila, would you like to take that on?
Yeah, sure. So Rajat, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to please repeat the question and also let me know if I'm audible enough.
Yeah, you are. You are. So I'm not able to see my screen. So is that Deepa or is it Laila?
It's Laila. I'm sorry. And neither can I can only see the poll on my screen, so I can't really see myself anymore.
Yeah. All right. All right. So let me just repeat the question, Laila. So it's about. Sorry. All right, Deepa, you're back.
I'm back. I got dropped off because I was trying to resolve my issue. But even I can only see the poll. I can't see anything else. So I think the moment I crossed it, I got logged out. Sorry about that.
No worries, Deepa. We can hear you. So Deepa, let's start with you, and then I'll pass the ball on to Laila. Deepa, you heard the question, right?
Partly, if you can please repeat it, if you don't mind.
I will do that. Yeah. So I think Chris touched upon these these lines which have been blurred now between personal space and workspace, right? And Sandeep, in fact, spoke about it not being unusual for pets and children to come into the background or foreground of very important work calls or conferences, and I think this whole blurring of these lines between there's been no line between a physical workspace and home or personal workspace has taken a lot of toll on the mental well-being and health of people. And I mean, personally, I'll be very, very candid to admit, the moment the government announced 15%, I just went running to the office and I said, I have to be back at work because it does get to you beyond a certain point in time. So what is being done by organizations and what is your advice for individuals and organizations to remain centered in these very stressful times? Deepa, let's start with you and then we move on to Laila.
Thank you so much, and apologies for that little hitch. So, right. So I think, I'll start with what we are doing as an organization, and we are a technology company, and there have been two things that have been very central to the way we've been responding and approaching this whole topic of blurring of lines and overall, the employee well-being. One is listening and responding very quickly. So there are different ways of.
Over all the panelists, you can just be closer to the mic, please. Your voice is not very clear. Thank you.
Any better?
That's better, Deepa. Can the other panelists please go on mute? I think it may be some bit of background noise also come. Yeah.
Right. So
yes, Deepa.
One of the things that we have been doing, very, very diligently are firstly having formal surveys. We did one in May and we did another in November. And we have been reacting very, very quickly to all the feedback that is bubbling up. We as an organization and culturally, we are a very, very well-being focused organization. Even before COVID, our policies were very unique around well-being and all that we did around that. And post-COVID, they only became stronger and varied in response to the different feedbacks we were getting. So one, listening, I think, to people, and that feeds back to empathy, empowerment, and all the other things that the panelists talked about, which are very, very key. Help us understand the pulse of the organization. And as HR, we were doing levels, we were contacting people, managers, and so on. So that was something that we will continue to do going forward as well. And the other thing, what we have been focused on is working with the managers and leaders, because we very strongly believe that managers and leaders set the tone. What you don't say is visible much more than what you say. So setting the tone is very, very important. And you never know what people are assuming. They might assume that it is expected of me to be on at all times. and therefore that feeling of blurring of lines comes in. So very explicitly go out in your team meetings and all hands. Please repeat it again and again that this is not the expectation, or we have flexible working. Even before we had a formal work from home policy, we had all processes in place to enable that. We're telling people, please feel free. We do have Zoom free days. Please feel free to not switch on your cameras. And the manager does it himself or herself. So we are encouraging all those things, and of course, all the EAP, those policies are available. We were one of the very early companies that announced pandemic leave very early on in February, which is a month of pandemic leave in case you fall ill or you need to take care of somebody. Covering home quarantine expenses by the medical insurers, oximeter and stuff like that. So all of these were brought on very, very early, which created that environment of trust that the organization is genuinely meaning and interested in ensuring our well-being, and therefore we can speak up. And when this was responding very quickly, I think more feedback came in. So today, our recent survey says that people are, pretty satisfied and happy with the support that they're getting. However, now they started missing those face-to-face interactions. And, it doesn't help that our CEO keeps saying in all hands that we are in no hurry to come back to office. Our offices are closed till June of next year. And even then we will see. We, like we said, we have a hybrid working which is partly work from home and partly in office. Now we are going to be leaning more towards remote working, and we're looking at offices being more collaboration spaces rather than your workspaces, and your working spaces are pretty much home. So again, my only 2 cents here is going by our experience to COVID and the few successes that we have had with employee trust and credibility and the way we are receiving feedback is, I think, listen. Be out there, be very visible as a leader and manager, and set the tone of what we are all talking about, and ensure that your employees are getting those signals right.
Thanks so much, Deepa. I think you raised some very pertinent points. Is how have organization extended their positive influence and value to people's homes to ensure that their home environment is best suited for work from home. I think that has gone a long way in helping people manage that mental stress, right? And you also spoke about looking at redesigning the office to make it more collaborative. At the end of the day, I think we do need collaboration. I don't think we can work from home for far too long. There is a need for collaboration, and that works best in a face-to-face environment. Maybe if I put a telescope into the future, it may be different, but at least in today's context, and I can say it for the generation which is there on this panel, I think we do need that face-to-face connect, right? So Laila, over to you. How do we address this whole issue around mental health and stress created by extended work from home as well? It's always Zoom, and you may have Zoom free days, but people still need to connect. So give us your views and perspectives, Laila. What can organizations do to manage this level of stress? Sorry, Laila, your audio is not coming clearly to me. Is it same with the other panelists? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, I think while Laila logs back in, Amit, you had raised this point on hybrid working, and there's a poll question which is coming. Let me just quickly pull it up. It's on the chat box. It's on hybrid working, and it says, how many companies have adopted a hybrid work model, and how has that affected workspace and future planning for it? So that's a poll question. I think you had addressed some part of it in your response as well to the earlier question, Amit. But any additional perspectives while we get Laila back on her audio?
So Rajat, I think one of the key fundamentals that is going to change is that choice is going to become central to the employee, which was never the case, right? We, all of us, are guilty of asking people to travel anywhere between 2 to 3 hours every day to a central location where the hope was that the manager would see me that I'm at work today, right? And the reality was that you wouldn't. So now what people have understood, and this is the largest work from home experiment that we are all in right now, is that I can be productive from anywhere, right? I mean, Deepa just mentioned that listen, and employees have been saying this, right? That why do I need to spend 2 hours, 3 hours every day in wasted commute, right? So coming back, I think what used to be location will be location, choice, and time. I will take a call on why do I really need to travel, and the choice is going to be employees, and the employer has to ensure that you give me options which are diverse than just a central location. Our sense, I think, on your specific question, my sense is that 10% of the people are going to continue to work from home. 20-25% are going to be distributed, which is work near home and satellite locations. And then about 60 to 70% are going to go to HO location. Very hard to predict how each organization will come out with that solution set, but that's our prediction, at least, that that's how the percentages will at an overall level roll out.
Oh, I think, yeah, great. You've given us the numbers as well, Amit. So I'm going to quote you on that as well. So yeah, but I think, Amit, we are seeing that 10% itself is a big lift from what we've been seeing so far, right? And you're right. It's the whole organization's perception of productivity working remotely that has completely changed. So why do I need to make the employees go through what they go through in 2, 3, 4 hours of commute every day if they can be equally productive working remotely? So I think we still don't have Laila. So Chris, I'm going to go on to the next question with you, and this is around technology, right? Do you agree? And this is for Chris, and we can then move on to Aravind, that technology can play a big role in impacting employee well-being and health. What innovations have you seen happening in this space? And do you think this whole appetite for tech adoption has increased over the past 10 months? Is that a statement you would agree with? Chris, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Rajat. Yes, broadly it is. I think, as has been borne out in some of the other examples made, particularly in the early presentations by our speakers, the use of touchless entry, measuring people's temperature from automatic temperature readers, employing technology to manage the level of density of capacity in lift cars. Looking at everything, deployment of sensors in terms of the utilization of taps, understanding the rate of water usage, how frequently people are therefore washing their hands. I mean, I think there's dozens of examples. So I think that it has both played a part, and I think it's only accelerating as I look at what's happening in smart buildings. I think COVID-19 has been something that's brought another dimension to the thinking around smart buildings, and health and safety being that. How you can use technology to give confidence to people that their interactions are safe. There are many building operators now using apps for so many things, creating touchless entry, allowing you to make online orders and bookings of meeting rooms and things where you simply don't have to touch anything in the way that you previously did. So I definitely agree technology is only going to continue to evolve in terms of enhancing some of the fundamentals that we spoke about in terms of quality of air, access to natural light, integration of indoors, outdoor areas, all those sorts of things. And I agree with the proposition. It's played a role in managing the pandemic from a workplace perspective.
Thanks, Chris. And Aravind, what is your view? You come from a tech company, and you have a very I would think a workforce in that age bracket which come with their own app environment to work every day. So yeah, what's your view on can technology play a role? Is it already playing a role? Have you seen a acceleration in that adoption? Are organizations, businesses more willing to invest in tech solutions? Aravind, over to you.
Sure, Rajat. I fully align and agree with what Chris is saying. I just want to bring one additional point. Kakkar is a workplace transformation leader and also a technology evangelist. One of our recent interactions, he was suggesting that what would otherwise have taken 7 to 8 years of evolution has happened in the last 8 months or so in the technology at workplace. And now there's a range of things that's happening and are set to happen. The primemost, of course, we can talk about tactically what's happening. We can talk about the variables that are coming in, how the difference between work and non-work is completely now removed. So the monitoring actually has gone beyond. People are looking at health coaching through apps. People are looking at organization and enterprise-wide health-related education, coaching, and customized solutionings that are happening. For example, Cognizant is doing a enterprise-wide Healthify Me kind of event for all associates across the globe. So what it has done is the advent of this technology and the adoption to a level that it has demystified the wellness, health, and the comprehensive well-being that are now, they don't exist in silos anymore and they're together. So we're not just saying that the ergonomics of workplace at work have to be good enough. I think that by an extension of that, a lot of companies are looking at how is it that my associate is sitting at his workplace, at his home. Is the lighting good enough there? And hence, we were mentioning, right, we are sending UPSs home, they're sending ergonomic chairs home, organizations are sending extended monitors, keyboards, and everything to do with making sure that the work or the delivery of work becomes that much more easier. We also have spoken about how more conscious eating or stress management, counseling services, and employee assistance protocols have been put into place. And I think digital and technology have played a very, very big role in democratizing and bringing it as a ubiquitous solution to everybody across organizations. Of course, we spoke about wearables and how it kind of brings data to a level. Again, there are some questions about privacy. We can speak about that later. But how, as a baseline, we can look at that information and kind of customize the offering uniquely to each of the users in a way that their information can be given back to them as a full wellness value proposition. It could be the way, the kind of hours they are logging. It could be the kind of exercise that they are doing or not doing. Is the kind of geofencing that we're saying, is the associate really investing enough in his or her own good health? So these are things which are available for organizations to take a call. We also have solution providers who have sprung up in the last 6 or 7 months, which I must say with pretty good offerings, and workplaces are looking at onboarding them at different levels of engagement to see how far this would go to, Rajat.
And I see we've got Laila back. Laila, thank you so much. I hope we were able to hear you. Laila, there was a question which I'd asked of Deepa around the whole personal space, workspace lines and boundaries having got blurred. And that's taken a real toll on people's mental health. And organizations need to do a lot to address it. And, Deepa gave us a fantastic answer in saying that she said, organizations need to listen to their employees. It's all about listening to the employees and extending their influence into their homes to make working from home as comfortable for them as possible. So what's your view, Laila, on that?
Yeah, first of all, I really apologize for the disruption, but like they say, disruption is, the way forward, and it's going to lead to a lot of innovation. So I hope my disruption is going to add some value to this panel. And already, like what our keynote speakers and my co-fellow panelists have already said, I think organizations have gone out of their way to ensure, the safety of the employees is the core of every initiative. And I think this is a time when real estate experts, together with HR heads, IT experts, business leaders have come together to see, okay, what is the best thing under the whole gamut of business continuity or enterprise resilience that you can make your employees feel safe. And like what Aravind mentioned, our organization has also gone ahead and provided the necessary infrastructure support. There is a lot of emotional quotient and intelligence which is being demonstrated. I mean, I see there is an impetus on webinars which is talking about mental health. How do you balance work and life? How do you manage stress at home, because home is no longer a place where you go and relax at the end of the day. It's got converted into an office, it's got converted into a childcare facility, it's got converted into a school, right? And then you have internet, which is the most unreliable, and data is not always your friend at all times. So obviously you have a lot of factors that have added on to this. So as an organization, I think what we have also done is improve the connectivity with the leaders. We've had town halls where we had the CEO of those directly address our employees, right? Now, typically in the past, these things occur when the CEO is visiting India. Now, we're not waiting for physical visits to happen. We want them to be with their employees directly.
I don't have to talk on it.
Sorry, I think we have somebody who's not on mute. Somebody who's not on mute. That's not me. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Laila. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the other thing that we have done is from a healthcare perspective, right? I mean, we have extended the service that we get from our healthcare provider, and now we have started delivering flu shots at home, right? And now it's possible for our employees to order spectacles from home. It's a lot of innovation and creativity, a lot of feedback surveys. I mean, so, collecting feedback that you have, the gut to digest, and also see, okay, how do you process that information to deliver that value proposition back to them. When we started the lockdown, or rather when we decided to go for a work from home mode sometime in March, we released, a whole set of initiatives which ensured continuity by providing, business infrastructure and support. But recently we made the announcement that we will not resume our return to office anytime before the mid of next year. So now what does that mean? Do we still work with those static set of initiatives, or what does it mean for the next 6 to 8 months? Do we need to be more innovative on that? And of course, I think, one other thing that I can really commend my organization for is that, they really believe in delivering value. So I think there has been an impetus on the corporate social responsibility and the community relations outreach side. And that was also, I could say, was very inclusive in how we included our bonus structure. So instead of having our annual bonus, it was divided. So we had our half-yearly bonus, which was distributed sometime mid of this year, and that again, and an additional level of assurance that you're giving your employees. And of course, all of this eventually does show some sort of positive result, because the employee engagement score that we had this year was 9% higher than the previous year, right? So on the surface of it, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of ideas coming together, but it's also heartening to see that our employees are reciprocating to these initiatives.
Thanks so much, Laila. And before I come back to you with something related to technology, Reena, I have an audience question. And Laila spoke about disbursement of bonuses, and she said that you're actually spreading it through the year. The question is interesting, and I think it brought a smile to my face. It said, are there any concerns that employees may develop a sense of entitlement in the future that could harm employers? So, Reena, over to you. I think you're really well placed to answer this question.
So I think, Amit talked about choice being central now. I think the employees are actually evolving. And as we see, even on the benefits side, and coming from the initiative and what, Aravind also talked about, multiple initiatives, going forward, we'll be kind of giving offerings to employees and multiple initiatives and offerings. And I think it's a choice of an employee to kind of say which is pick and choose. And I think that's the model we'll take, wherein we don't see entitlement coming in, but we see a lot of variety of offerings being given. And depending on my choice, my lifestyle, my need, I would opt for what I need to be there. It could be, so we've had situations where people have kind of said that I need an insurance for my parents versus somebody said, no, I don't need an insurance, I need some other plan. Yeah. So I think, we started experimenting with flexible benefit option. I think that would become the norm. And if you are kind of giving a bouquet of choice, I think entitlement is something which will go away because I am taking what is required from my perspective. So I think that's going to be a big shift which will happen on the not only the workspace side, but also on the employee benefits side because of this reason.
I think fantastic response, Reena. It's about giving a choice. And so when you give that choice, and you give a reasonable set of choices, right? Organizations that the organization can afford to in this business environment, then I think the sense of entitlement will go away. So great perspective, I think. So Laila, there was a question around technology that we were discussing when you came back on. Now, one of the conundrums that organizations are facing, and I've come across some, Arvind spoke about some startups, they have pretty intrusive technology interventions, right? There is a startup which came to me and said, there's a wearable, and every time an employee comes within lesser than 6 feet of another, it'll start beeping, and the whole world will know that these two are within 6 feet or lesser than each other. So I said, please go away. You'll run all of us CRE leaders into trouble with CHROs. So yeah. So Laila, what is your perspective? Where do you draw the line? I mean, we have to maintain social distancing. I keep saying that to my own colleagues in the office in the nicest possible way. I hold myself in a meeting room, and that's how I'm not wearing a mask, right? But I think it's what it is, right? So where do you draw a line with technology, right? Because I think two main stakeholders in organizations when CREs want to introduce technologies are security, cyber security, or IT security, and yourself, and corporate operations plus HR. So tell us, Laila, your views.
Yeah, so the way I look at it, Rajat, and this is inevitable, right? I mean, our life is going to be dominated or perhaps even shaped by IoT, robotics, IoT, automation, and things like that. It's inevitable. But I think, now it is important to carefully evaluate because I think there are a plethora of solutions that are available out there. And I think, there has to be a careful evaluation of what is the problem that you're trying to solve. So the selection has to go through a proper due diligence. I think it also has to, you have to do the feasibility check to where is it sitting within your existing mainframe, right? So does it mean I implement certain technology, you have to make change to your existing IT infrastructure, SG, information security guidelines, any sort of if irrelevant, they have to be seen very holistically. And another element that I think I would like to add here is while automation is good and it can lead to simplicity, you have to be sensitive to the fact that data protection is going to be a big concern in the future, and something that cannot be regarded. However, at the same time,
we are losing you, Laila. I don't know if it's only me, but I think we got what you're saying.
What are the solutions that we my own team member, and he front office, because every morning when we walk in and when we see a smiling face who is welcoming us, it makes difference to
Sorry, Laila, we've lost you totally now. So I think we got what you said, Laila. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me. Is around the decision. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think you talked about data privacy
I'm just
and
going
respecting
to
the.
switch off my camera, and I hope that helps.
It's still scratchy, Laila, and it's still a bit scratchy. But I think thanks so much. We got most of your response.
Is this helping, Rajat? Am I audible?
Not 100%, Laila, but I think we got most of your response. And it's around, respecting the privacy, whether it's data privacy or individual privacy of
Can you
the
hear
employees.
me now? Am I audible now?
No, scratchy.
I switched off my camera, so I'm hoping this helps.
Yeah, it's coming and going, Laila.
I rest the case here.
Right. Okay, I'm going to move on to Deepa. I know we are woefully over time. I've bought some 5 minutes from RICS, and I don't know what they're going to levy as a penalty on me for that. Deepa, quickly to you, and then I'll hand it over to Sandeep, and then we wrap up. What is now, in your view, the intersection between the CHRO and the CRE, right? How can we come together and create value for the employees, right? We're responsible for workspace. You look at the soft aspects. You have some key levers, parameters that you focus on from a HR performance, employee engagement perspective. So tell us, what is your view on how do those intersections happen? Yeah.
So Rajat, one correction here: we were never apart to start with. HR and real estate leaders always work together, in my experience, to land the overall employee experience for the employees. So while we may have a certain view on what cultural fabric and what our employee value proposition ought to be, it was always in consultation with the real estate leader, and they helping us envision how we would be able to do it. In fact, when I heard today morning Sandeep and Sanjay and Wipro and Tata, all the phenomenal innovation that is happening in the workplace, it gave me a lot of ideas that I can go back and discuss with my real estate leader to see how we can operationalize some of it. So I think, it has always been a joint effort. While we may have a certain view and a vision of how we want the employee experience to be, the real estate leaders have always taken it to the next level by bringing up and sharing with us what the latest innovations have been and so on. So, in my view, they've always worked together, and COVID has just brought it even closer on what we needed to do. So I know early on when we shut offices, there was a core team of about 10, 20 people who needed to still come in. And the amount of turnaround that they were able to do overnight, Saturday it was announced that there's a lockdown, but Monday we still, because we were essential services, we still had to get people in. Within Saturday, Sunday, they were able to organize passes from the Gurgaon government and authorities, make the send it across, despite all the lockdown and the quiet on the roads, able to send it off to people so that they could carry it when they were coming to the office on Monday. A couple of them got stopped by the cops and were even threatened that they would be put behind bars. But I think everything was so seamlessly managed and so impressively managed. I mean, I can go on and on and on. So, I mean, clearly it is something that will always happen jointly, has been and will always happen jointly, Rajat.
Thank you so much, Deepa. It looks like we're already there, isn't it? Sandeep, what's your view?
I'm completely in consonance with Deepa. We've always worked together. We've always worked closely, but still, if we look at it today, there's a change. So I don't think we've ever been so focused on employee engagement and the employee experience, that has suddenly come in the forefront. It's probably even ahead of productivity at this stage. So when you see the CRE leaders, right from designing of workspace, the collab spaces, and how we are putting the various kind of spaces together and how the whole office environment comes together is completely different. So that's what the CRE and others are focused on. So right from design to the delivery of these spaces. How's it that the hybrid environment is going to work? So there are people who are at home, there are people who are in offices, and there are people in different workspaces. How's that collaboration going to take place? Because the future seems to be that the collab spaces and are going to be more important. So when people are at the workspace, they are mainly to interact with each other. They can work from anywhere, depending on the kind of work that they are doing. And what HR is also doing at this time is both on-site and virtual mental well-being. So they are trying to address to see that how can we have mental health and productivity in this whole environment, which is so fragmented as it seems to be appearing. And yet, I think the most important thing about it is how we are together in the hybrid environment. I think the importance of diversity, the importance of inclusion, how do we do things so we are more empathetic toward the employees is becoming even more important than what it has ever been. Probably it's just come to the forefront and it's been fast-tracked and it needs to be addressed now. So I do think that the changing role of workplace itself and the workplace experience is what's going to be key. Like Deepa said, I completely agree that CHROs and CREs have been working closely together. It's just the set of problems that we are now addressing seem to be slightly different than what we were addressing even say 9 months ago.
It's a happy note, Sandeep, to end the panel discussion on. I'll do a quick wrap up, of course, but we're all working together. We're, I would think we are collaborating well. This is throwing up exactly what you said, Sandeep, a new set of challenges, and I think the deeper our collaboration and connect, the better is the value that organizations will get from our respective functions, right? I think that's a really, really good note to end this discussion. We are over time, I know, but I'll do a quick wrap up. So I've noted down some takeaways from myself, and I'm sure that will resonate with the audience and yourselves as well. All of you spoke about the domain of influence today. It's not only limited to employees, but it is limited to, it extends to what influence they have in their own personal workspaces and lives, right? So empathy has been brought out, I think, by all of you in your perspectives, that organizations need to be more empathetic. Deepa said, listen, listen, listen. Run polls, sense the employee's pulse, and then plan your interventions to make these times less stressful. And therefore, organizations will benefit as well by having more productive workforce, right? We spoke about hybrid working, and Amit has given us some very interesting numbers there as well. He said up to 10% will be working from home, 25 to 30% will be remote plus hybrid, and the rest will be coming to the offices. So I think it is, like Amit said and Chris said, it is going to create this whole need to recast how we operate and design workspaces. But I think these are interesting times when we talk about hybrid working. We spoke about emotions, we spoke about enlightenment, we spoke about the power of technology, but we also spoke about what should be our guiding principle around the power of technology as well. So so I think we're over time. I know there's some more questions which have come in. I want to actually check with Archana if we have the time. I know we are taking a lot of time of the panelists as well. If we have the time, I can share this question with the others. But Archana, over to you. Do we have the time, or do we need to close now?
Rajat,
15 minutes.
Please, you can take a question.
Okay, I've been given 5 minutes. So the question which is coming from the audience, and they've been patiently listening to us, is COVID-19 has given a new dimension to reality, imagining pandemic from a workplace perspective, wellness, health, and comprehensive wellness at workplace is now becoming important. Digital technology is okay. I think this is a comment, and it's more, yeah, it's more a comment than a question on the proceedings of this panel. And we did run a poll, and the poll question was, let me just pull that up, and I just want to share that with you guys before we wrap up. The poll question we had was, currently, how much confidence do you have in your business and organization's recovery plan to mitigate the impact of COVID-19? And we had 3 choices: fairly confident, confident, and totally confident. And I think what we got as a response was, I think close to 46% said fairly confident, 14% said totally confident, and the rest said, don't test my mathematics, the rest said we are confident that organizations have done enough to mitigate the risk. So, all right, I'm going to wrap up now. Thank you for being very patient, and hopefully I've not done too much of the talking as well, but immensely important insights. I feel enriched at the end of this hour. I know we are over time, but I think we began a little late, and then we had some very interesting perspectives shared by the set of eminent speakers. So Nimish, over to you to wrap it up and let the others also go back home.
Thanks a lot, Rajat, for making it easier for me. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible for me to conclude the enormous knowledge which I got from today. It was definitely an extremely engaging discussion, and I'm sure you would agree that the rich experience and expertise brought to the discussion by all our panelists have made for what has been a very well spent afternoon, a little bit of evening as well, full of market insights and prospects. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us here today and gracing this forum. The quality of the discussions wouldn't have been the same without you. Before we conclude the proceedings, I would once again like to thank our presenting partner, Intellion Offices by Tata Realty, and knowledge partner, JLL India, for bringing everyone together and once again ensuring that we discuss the most relevant and pertinent issues and topics in the sector and continue to deliver thought leadership to the market. Like I said at the beginning of today's event, this is the last of our leadership forums for 2020. So while I bid all of you farewell for this year, and I wish that the next year will actually be bringing the best of health, happiness, and safety for all of us. Let that be a brighter 2021 waiting for you. With that, wish all of you a great and a happy new year in advance, even though it is only beginning of December, but knowing that it will possibly not be available for any one of us to physically or virtually see each other for some time. All the best for you, and I'm hoping that 2021 is the best year for the entire world.